Chapter 10. Horizon. "Ma," Bradley yelled as he was making his way out. "I'm going to be late after school. They're doing a scrimmage and Mr. Gazelle wants me to help out the grade 9ers." The well-built athlete slowly walked halfway out of the house, holding his bag with one hand and the doorknob with the other. "Okay, hun," Sally replied. "I'll make sure I'll put tonight's dinner in the fridge so you can reheat it once you come back. Ooh." She let out a yelp as her husband just patted her backside. He was wearing his cowboy boots and denims, while having his wife beater half worn.
"Good morning, my lady,"
Stephen yelled out his morning greeting in his gruff Texan accent.
"How's my sunshine doing today?"
"Not too shabby, and how's the sheriff doing?" Sally giggled and swayed in his arms as he was holding her by the waist now.
The saddle's a tad dusty, but I'm a ride into the sun as soon as I get ready for work,"
Stephen said cheerfully as he put on his wife beater fully. "Oh, you," Sally vibrantly said as she handed him a coffee mug and his cowboy hat that he usually wore at work. The wild old-timer started to wear his red and black flannel shirt as he was getting ready to work at his piece of land he owns on the outskirts of Atlanta. Bradley stood transfixed, not knowing what in the world the exchange between his parents meant.
"Hey, boy,"
Stephen sounded confident as he sipped his coffee.
"Prospecting young guns for this year's draft? Minor Niners, eh?"
Yes, sir," Bradley said in a low voice.
"Speak up, boy,"
growled Stephen as he then held onto his belt buckle that was a massive long-horned steel bullhead.
"I can't hear ya. Don't want ya to get sissy pants on me when you make your first impression on these lads. They want to see Eagle High's football veteran and national all-star champion quarterback show up. Do I make myself understood?"
His growl was not in anger, but in enthusiasm.
"Yes, sir,"
Bradley said in a high-energy voice. He stood up, straightening his morning slack of a posture.
"Attaboy,"
winked Steve as he slapped his only offspring on the back.
"Now give your old man a firm handshake that can make grizzlies wet themselves and run scared to they mamas. Speaking of mamas, don't forget to give your own a big warm kiss before you leave. Ooh, if it weren't for this lady, you would still be swimming in this stud's jeans, if you know what I mean."
Bradley stood firm, pretending like he did not just hear that. He winced a bit and then shook it off. Sally also cringed at the inappropriate remark. Stephen looked at his only son with a raised eyebrow. Bradley then looked at his mother, who was now giving him a radiant smile. Okay, sir," Bradley sighed. He then walked over to his mother and kissed her on the cheek. He gave his father a firm handshake and picked up his school backpack from the well-polished floor. The family-loving athlete then departed from his loving blue-collared household with a farewell and a military-style salute to his parents. He then closed the door behind him and then rushed his way to the school.
"Sally, that boy right there is gonna make us proud,"
Steve beamed at the front door that was emitting sun rays through its windowed opening.
"He's gonna do something none of us have ever thought of doing when we were his age."
"Ya think?" Sally looked at her husband as she jokingly slanged in a Texan accent.
"I don't think, hon," Stephen gruffly said. "You should know that by now."
Sally laughed quietly as she was shaking her head with her arms folded. The doting housewife was right behind her, tough as nails companion, as she was following him to the kitchen. Stephen suddenly turned around and pointed his finger at her while raising his eyebrows.
"But I just know,"
the gritty Texan shouted with certainty. Sally stood in her place cross-eyed as she was staring at her spouse's finger that almost took one of her eyes out.
"Oh,
my apologies, ma'am," Stephen mumbled as he slowly let down his finger. "I, almost poked your, Stephen scratched the back of his head and started to nervously chuckle a bit. Sally then looked at him with a stoic face as if unimpressed. He then started to laugh at her reaction. She then smiled and chuckled a bit. He then started to laugh louder. They both were now roaring with laughter.